Well, hello everyone. My name is Alison Woodall and I'm a relocation specialist. That means I get to help you with the financial, logistical, and emotional issues that make moving to a new state so stressful. And I am very excited today to be talking with Shay Felknor, and she's a realtor in Greenville, South Carolina, but she is going to talk to us not only about her area, but she's also going to walk us step by step through the process of buying and selling a home. Shay, welcome.
Hi, Allison. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, I am so excited to talk to you because I know that there's so many people in the groups who maybe have never bought a home before or never sold a house, and they feel that maybe, they don't know the right questions to ask. They don't know where to begin. So what is the process if I want to sell my house in Greenville, and I know every state is different, but let's use Greenville.
Yes.
If I come to you and say, I want to put my house on the market, what's
Okay.
the first step? Obviously finding that realtor.
Yeah, so definitely interviewing a realtor. And I will tell you that most people start with the commission question without fully understanding what they would get in exchange for that expense. And it's really important to understand how that money is used in order to get you the highest and best value for one of your most valuable assets. But it's really good to understand how that money is being spent and how it's going to get you what you want. So sometimes asking, well, how much do you charge to list is really not the best place to start. I would start with interviewing, a couple of different agents, 2 or 3 different agents that specialize in the area. I would establish those expectations up front, what your time frame is for listing, and also how soon do you want to sell, because that's really going to influence where you price your home. You want to, in your interview of that real estate agent, you want to get to know what their experience and expertise are. I mean, are they experts in the area? Are they new to the area? How much have they sold in your neighborhood? Are they accustomed to selling in your price point? You want to understand what kind of support they offer, because I'm just one person. I'm not going to be available all the time to answer a phone. Now, I try as much as I can, but I'm only one person. So it's important to understand what the support staff is behind that listing agent, because you want to be able to get them when you need them. So understand what their support system is. And the big one is you want to understand what their marketing strategy is. And this is so important. A lot of people in this environment, because we are so short of inventory, a 5-year-old can put a sign in the front yard and get one buyer, but you're not looking for one buyer. Oh, and by the way, I think it's less than, I forget what the percentage is. I think it's like less than about 2 or 3% of the people who bought a home bought off of a sign. So you've got to do more than just put a sign in the front yard. So you need to ask this realtor, what is their marketing strategy? What are they going to do to make sure that they've positioned your home for maximum exposure? Because you don't want that just one buyer. You want multiple people in the buyer pool for that home, that area, for that price point, competing for your house. So what is their strategy? Are they going to use social media along with MLS? Are they going to use aggregator sites? Are they going to use special interest social media pages? I saw a Mid-Century Modern page that actually had a Mid-Century Modern listing out of Greenville. So what are they going to do to position your home so that the maximum number of buyers see your house? Because your leverage just went through the roof once you get people competing for your house. So that's really important. You also want to understand what services they offer. Do they offer staging? For instance, I offer design consultation. I pay for that. I'm not a decorator. I could show you my house and prove it to you, but I hire professionals who are, and I have them come in and tell the seller room by room how that room should be laid out so that it shows well and photographs well. Also, professional photography. You cannot skimp on photography. I can't say this enough, because that is your first impression. And the first 2 weeks in the life of a listing are so critical. The first 2 weeks, that's when all the buyers in your buyer pool are going to see your house. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. So professional photography is a must. Also, with the way people are buying today, they're more often than not sitting at a computer touring your house. I've seen a lot of people cut out the 3D imaging or virtual tours. And by the way, this is my pet peeve of mine. A virtual tour is not pictures stitched together. That's a PowerPoint presentation. A virtual tour or a video is an actual video. So pay the extra money, get the video done. I actually offer that as part of my package. So I do the 3D imaging, and that way, once this buyer pool sees this house, they can go tour it, stay as long as they want from any world. So that makes it so much easier for buyers to see what you have to offer. When you're interviewing them, also ask them how they're going to handle contract negotiations. How are they going to handle multiple offers? And they should be able to tell you really quickly how that's going to be handled. Are you going to call for a best and final? Are you going to give a deadline? Are you going to take the first offer that you like? My recommendation is that you don't take the first offer. I like setting deadlines and have a call for best and final. And then that way, once you've done all this marketing that I've been talking about, promoting the house everywhere, you're going to have multiple offers, and that's going to position you for potentially a backup offer, which is really critical right now, Allison. We used to say that 30% of all contracts fall through, and I'm seeing that move up because a lot of people are buying sight unseen and not doing the due diligence up front. And then they get here and they're like, well, this isn't what I expected. And then they want to cancel. We're seeing contracts fall out for all kinds of reasons. So when you're going to list your house, you need to make sure that you've got somebody who's doing a really good marketing job to attract multiple buyers so that you can potentially have a backup ready to go if something falls out. I cannot stress that enough. That is so important. Especially think about this. You put a contract on a house in South Carolina, you need to sell your house.
Yes.
It's best this is why you don't start with the commission question. You start with, what are you going to do for me? What is your market? What is your plan? How are you going to navigate this whole process to ensure that I am selling my house at the highest and best value in the time frame that I need it to sell?
Okay. And presumably
really
critical. If your time frame's shorter, you have to be maybe a little less, you maybe have to take an offer, fewer offers. You can't wait till you get multiple offers. The shorter your time frame, the less picky you can be. Or does it just depend on the house you're selling?
The shorter your time frame is, the more aggressively you need to price your house.
Okay.
Because and I never recommend pricing at the top of your range. I recommend pricing it at market value. Mm-hmm. And if you do, then you have a better chance of multiple offers. Okay. That's suggestion is. Did I answer your question?
Yes. Yep. And then, okay. So with the commission, I know that there's kind of standard commissions, but what kind of wiggle room is there with negotiating the commission with a realtor? Should you do that, or is it worth paying more in commission to get an excellent realtor who is really going to market your house well, versus pay less in commission and get a less experienced, maybe more desperate realtor?
Well, I tell you what happens is when they do negotiate, if they're going to sell your house for a deep discount, they're not going to have the money to market it the way it needs to be marketed, and you might not even realize that. Okay. But it's not going to get marketed the way it needs to be.
Okay. And is there like an industry standard of what the commission is?
No, there is not. It's all over the board. That is not a fixed price. Every brokerage is different. But the more full service brokerages like mine, we're going to be less negotiable because of all the work that goes into it and all of the services that we provide towards listing the house.
It's like anything else. You get what you pay for. So,
right.
And
yep, very true.
I always tell people, you've got to budget. You've got to decide that, yes, if you're going to sell your house the best way possible with the best realtor, you have to factor in this much for your real estate listing, put it in your budget up front. And
yep.
And it's one of those things, it comes back, you may be paying a little bit more as a percentage, but that realtor is going to get you a much higher price, because
Right.
as a realtor, you don't want to sell that house for a low price. The higher the price you sell it for, the more you're making commission. So, it's a win-win situation, in my opinion. And I would always, it's one of those things, just like you don't want to pay for a really cheap moving company to move all your stuff across the country. You want to pay for the best, most reputable moving company. You also need to do the same when it comes to your realtor. There's some places you just can't skimp.
Right.
Moving companies, insurance, and realtors.
Yes.
That's where all your budget should go. Well, perfect.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you found that amazing realtor. You set your time frame. You know what your goal price would be. Then that realtor goes out and they market your house, and you presumably need to have it staged nicely, painted, figured out where you're going to invest your money to make it look great. And I did an interview with a home staging lady that I can link to. She went through all of that, how to stage your home and everything to get the best price. So then you get people coming through, and then someone says, yes, that's what I want to offer. And you say, yes, I'll take that offer. You go under contract, and then it's presumably everything that we've just talked about from a buyer's point of view, but in reverse. You have the inspections, you figure backwards and forwards on the inspections and contracts, and then that person gets the money, and then you go to your closing attorney and you both sign, and boom, done.
Yes.
Live happily ever after in your new state.
Yep. Well, to ensure that you get that happily ever after, there are a few more things that have to be done. So I have a lot of details that I can share, but the main thing is preparing your home for the listing. There are a couple of housekeeping tips that I always tell people, change your filters, because believe it or not, people will check. People will go to your register, open it up to see if you've been cleaning your filters, because that's going to give them an indication of how well you've maintained your house. So change your filters. I would even clear the drains, identify any repairs that could be deal breakers, and just make those repairs, and maybe paint. I wouldn't get into repainting accent walls or trying to do anything fancy, because somebody may want to come in and just change it all. But also, please remove any fixtures that you're going to want to take with you, because you'd be surprised how contentious that chandelier that your grandmother gave you becomes at closing, and you forgot about it. And it's going to, all fixtures convey with the purchase.
Okay, that is good to know. Okay, so take your fixtures down before. My husband was an electrician, so he could in theory remove all my light fixtures, but it doesn't cost that much to replace your grandmother's chandelier with something for $100 that's perfectly serviceable from Home Depot.
Right. Yeah, because make sure it's not in the pictures. Just take it down, replace it before the pictures are done. Okay. And then you just want to make sure that you remove, or that you declutter, pack and store, depersonalize, because you're not trying to get people to like you. You want them to like your house. So, I have a lot of paintings in my house. I would have to take those down. I, for one, love art. And when I go into a house that's full of paintings, I get distracted. I'm not looking at the space. I'm looking at the paintings, trying to figure out who did it, and so depersonalize, get someone to come in, design, maybe stage. Again, we talked about professional photography, 3D imaging, and then, prepare your home for showings. When someone walks into your door, you want a welcome sign of some sort, maybe shoe coverings, a QR code, for any documents that you want the buyer to see. All those things are really important.
Okay.
And then, of course, get all these offers. Ideally, you choose the one that you want to be in a relationship with, and then, you go through that whole process that I mentioned before, but on the reverse side. Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Okay, so now I feel like I could not only buy a house, I could sell my house, because my experience of selling has been, I literally sold a rental house in 10 days to one of these people who kept calling me, because when you own a rental property, people call and call and call. I would get 3 or 4 calls sometimes in a day. Wow, so he bought it sight unseen, as is, and it was a cash offer, and I went to a closing attorney, signed a piece of paper, and 10 minutes later I had the money in my account. So,
wow. Yeah.
Which is why I'm doing, I never advise people, who I'm coaching. I just say, find the best realtor you can, because I'm not an expert. You are the expert. I can coach you on the mindset. I can coach you on all of those other things, but this you have to be a professional. You have to have the experience and all of the, you know, the details that you've gone through. So I really appreciate that. Anything else you want to add on buying or selling a house before we get on to Greenville, South Carolina?
Just one other thing, as you did mention investment properties. I've had some clients moving from California who were selling investment properties. It's really important to understand the 1031 exchange process to avoid paying capital gains. If you're going to roll those funds over into other investment properties, you're going to want a good qualified intermediary to help you with that.
Okay, that is great. Yes, I was owning rental property was not for me. I did it once, and it's all about knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. And if you have lots of rental properties and you're in the same state, or you have a property manager, that's great. The stories I could tell you about my rental property.
Oh, I'm sure. No, I'm the same way, Alison. I wouldn't want anything to do with that.
No, just like I know I'm not a house flipper. When we moved back to our house that we'd rented out for 4 years to the most wonderful lady, and we'd done the basics, but I mean, I was just fixing up my house to living in again. It's just not a process that I enjoy. I can't think of anything worse than flipping. But if that's your thing, then, you know, find the right realtor, find the right person to guide you so that you can, you know, it's all about being well informed and knowing exactly what you want and what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, and find those people to fill in the, you know, to support your strengths and fill in for your weaknesses.
Absolutely. And I've got some great management companies. If, you know, if multifamily or a rental property is your thing, I've got some great resources to help you with that.
Well, perfect. Okay, so final thing, I would love you to tell us about Greenville, South Carolina, and the area that you cover. So for people who don't know South Carolina very well, kind of whereabouts is Greenville located?
So Greenville is in the northwestern part of South Carolina. We are fairly well centered between Charlotte and Atlanta. It's about, well, depending on traffic, you never discuss miles when you're talking about Atlanta. You know that.
Yeah.
So we're about 2.5 hours from Atlanta, and we're about 90 minutes from Charlotte. I do highly recommend, for if you're visiting this area, fly into Charlotte if you can. It's such an easy drive, but sometimes it's not that easy coming from Atlanta. And I used to live in Atlanta, so I can say that.
Yes.
So
and I used to
be brutal.
Yeah, I used to commute from Atlanta every single Monday morning and commute back every Friday night when I was working in Greenville. And it just depends on the time and the traffic, but getting from Atlanta, from the airport, because it's south of the city, there's no way to avoid the city. So I know. Definitely fly into Charlotte. So describe Greenville to me. If you were wanting to, is it a big city? Is it a small city? Is it rural? What's Greenville like?
So I think, what was it? People magazine called it the next big small town. And I apologize, my dogs are going to start making noise, but that's life. We've all experienced it working from home. But when it starts raining, and it's raining now, they get a little nervous and they need attention. But no, Greenville is it's a great little town. When I left Atlanta, the one thing I didn't want to give up was great food. I was really concerned about that. But it's a little metropolis, and it's just, we have great restaurant options. I mean, a wide variety of cuisines, and we have a lot of breweries. Somebody was telling me, one of my clients is a brewer, and they were just marveling at how many breweries we have. And if that's your thing, we've got that. Really lots of festivals, lots of parks. We have Paris Mountain. The mountains are 45 minutes away, just so you know, just like 45 minutes away, the Blue Ridge Mountains are there. And then the coast, if you need to get your coast fix, you can go 4.5 hours to Charleston. Myrtle Beach is a little bit farther away, Hilton Head as well. So it's not that hard to get there. You're
near Lake Hartwell as well, aren't you?
We have a lot of lakes. Yeah, we have Lake Hartwell. We have Lake Oconee, or Lake Keowee, sorry, in Oconee County. Beautiful lakes. Yeah, and then we have some smaller lakes, in the Greenville County area too. So And a lot of people were asking me, about tornadoes. But we don't get them as much, and we're far enough inland that we're not going to get the hurricanes. So I feel like we're fairly well insulated, and I think we offer the best of most worlds, just where we're positioned in the state.
Yeah, and so in terms of like schools and colleges, you've got everything that anybody would need moving to an area if they've got kids or college age kids.
Yeah. We're in that Charlanta corridor, which is really nice without having to put up with traffic every day. But we have access to Clemson University. UGA is not too far away if you wanted to go to Athens, Georgia. Charlotte, what do they have? I'm losing it.
I don't know. I always think of, when I think of Greenville, I think of Clemson. So
yeah, Clemson, and we have Furman University too. Anderson University is very close. It's within a 40 minute drive. So lots of higher education options here. We have great schools here. And by the way, I had a real hard time giving up my bottled water, but we have great water here. We really do. So they've done a really good job with our water treatment here. And so you don't have to, I still filter my water just because I can't get past it, but it's really good.
Yeah.
Really. But lots of festivals here. We are home to one of the largest art festivals in the country. It's called Artisphere, and that's coming up in May. Highly recommend you look that up, but it's one of my favorite events of the year. I've got Thanksgiving, Christmas, and then Artisphere. Those are my favorite times of the year. So
wonderful.
Well, yeah, so much to do.
Yeah, and it is. It's just a great part of the country. I love it's because you do have that city feel. You have everything that you need, but you don't have the traffic. You don't have the congestion. You don't have all the stress of living in a city.
Right.
If you want to get to Charlotte, if you want to get to Atlanta or to the coast, everything is it's just a great location, and it's such an easy drive to any of those places.
Sure. Yeah.
I have one more question, which I always get asked. Property taxes. How are property taxes?
Okay, so the feedback that I've gotten is our property taxes are far less than what you're going to see in California. And if anybody wants to have, get an example, my house is probably about a $340,000 house, and I pay about $2,300 in taxes.
Okay,
I don't know if that helps. There's no straight line way to calculate it. They've got a property tax estimator online. So if anybody really wants to play around with the numbers and the locations, I can give you a link to that property tax estimator, and you can figure out what your taxes would be.
Perfect. And then I did think that when you said what your house is worth, an average house price, because when you come from a lot of people who are watching this are coming from California, where your average house price is something crazy. And in the South, in your market, could you find a nice house for that 200 to 300,000 price point? If you're a little bit further out of the city, if you're looking a little bit older, is that doable? Is that a realistic price range?
It is doable, but that's the most popular price range, and you're going to be competing with a very large buyer pool for that house. So it's really rough. It's really tough. It's tough. You need a really good realtor.
Yes, exactly. Well, perfect. Because I always like to ask, like the low end question, is it possible? And in some markets, it's I talked to a guy from Miami yesterday and a guy in the DC area, and they were both like, no, 500,000 and above. But if you in certain markets, in certain states, 200,000 is realistic. But to know that you're 200,000 to 300,000 just positions people. If you're looking for a state and your budget is much lower, you choose a cheaper state. If you have a little bit more in your budget, then you can be a little bit more picky about the areas that you move to.
Yeah, the closer you are into the center of downtown, the higher it's going to be. I would say, I'm trying to think of what the average price point is in the downtown area. It's probably about 500 or 600. Yeah. But if you're wanting to spend 200, 300, you're going to have to go out. You're going to have to go outside of the city limits for sure, and expect to compete.
Okay. Well, wonderful. Well, if someone wants to contact you, and I'm sure so many people are going to want to contact you, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Sure. Well, actually, my cell phone's going to be the best because I'm usually driving and I can't check Facebook when I'm driving. So just call me. And my cell phone number is 864-884-8651.
Perfect. And do you have an email address for anyone who wants to send you an email?
Sure, yes. Use Shay, SHAY .Felknor, FELKNOR @nestrealty.com.
Okay, perfect. Because I'm old school. I like to email people.
Yeah, either way.
Yeah, I always miss those Facebook notifications. So if you send me an email, it may take me 24 hours to get back to you, but I will, I'm much better replying to emails or texts as well.
Yeah. Well, then too, like if somebody sends you a private message, it could go into message request and you're not going to see it because it's not going to be,
it gives
visible.
You that little red dot that you have to go searching for.
You have to go look for it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been so incredibly helpful. And I know you're going to have helped so many people. And I appreciate you, taking all this time to talk with me.
Oh, no, thank you. I really appreciate you asking about our sweet city, and look forward to helping anyone who wants to come and take a tour and get to know us better.
Thank you.
Thanks.